Torah Life Ministries come out of the world. Messiah people seek the truth.
Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries. I want to thank you for joining us and say Shabbat Shalom. Today is the Sabbath, and if you're watching this another time, this is a very important message regardless when you're watching it. I'm currently here on a book tour in beautiful South Africa, and we're having a great time. But I'm just so blessed that I have the world's greatest book with me, the Scriptures, and I am going to continue to do the Torah portions, and this week is no different. This week I want to teach from the 22nd teaching of the parashah, which is Exodus 35:1 to 38:20. And in this week's teaching, we see a very significant, important message. What we see, it starts off right in Exodus 35:1, where it says, Moses assembled the whole community of the people in Israel and said to them, the things that our Creator has ordered them to do. So this was for the whole community of the children of Israel that left Egypt and were going to make their way to the promised land. No one was to be excluded from doing these things. And as he went on along these things, one of the first things he told them to do is 6 days a week is to work, but then you're going to take the seventh day and it's to be a holy day for you to rest. And this is the way that we honor our wonderful Creator. Now, in today's times, people just can't seem to get enough done. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, always working and never getting enough done. But I assure you, if our Creator told us to do something, there's a reason and a good reason behind it. He has our best interest in mind. And when He tells us to take 1 day to rest, I assure you, you'll get more done in 6 days a week and 1 day of rest than in 7 days a week. So I just use that as an example and as a foundation of all of everything you're doing to see the blessings that come when we're obedient to our Creator. And remember, no one of the community was excluded from this. And that's the same thing today. If you're a believer in Messiah, if you've accepted Yeshua as Messiah, you are not excluded. You must keep the guidelines and instructions there for everyone in the community. Then it goes on saying, Exodus 20, then the whole community of the people of Israel withdrew from Moses' presence, and they came, everyone whose heart stirred him, and everyone whose spirit made him willing, and brought our Creator offerings for the work on the tent of the meeting. So one of the things Moses told them in these instructions was, anyone whose heart is stirred, they must give. They must give the things that our wonderful Creator told them to give. And not only did they gave so much, as we see later on, that, it says in Exodus 36, it says in Exodus 36:3, they received from Moses all of the offerings which the people of Israel brought for the work of the building of the sanctuary, but they still kept bringing voluntary offerings. You see, their heart was in it, so they couldn't stop giving. And today, the subject of giving is quite controversial because, some people, they're not stirred to give. They just do it because other people are doing it. They think they have to do it. No, your heart has to be into it. This whole thing with Messiah is a heart thing, people. The offerings are a heart thing. And you know what? And you're giving from your heart, it's very difficult to stop giving. And here in this situation, it says they kept bringing the offerings voluntarily because their heart was stirred to do so. You see, He wants our hearts to be stirred to follow Him, follow His guidelines and commands. And in no other way does He want us. And, we see people following the commands, the guidelines, and the instructions of our Creator today. It says, if your heart is into it, my commandments shall not be burdensome. There's a lot of Christians out there today and people that believe, well, there's no way we can follow the Ten Commandments. Yes, if your heart's not into it, there's no way. But if your heart's into it, there's no way you cannot. Some people might say, well, we can't keep all the commandments. Well, you're 100% right. We can't keep the 613 commandments that are found in the Scriptures. But we can certainly keep 10 of them. And if your heart is in it, don't you think you're responsible to keep that small percent of them? It's not that difficult to do. And when you think about them, it's really easy. But what do I get? I get Christians telling me, well, they keep the commandments. As a matter of fact, I was doing a meeting the other day, and I was talking about the church and how the church is just getting away, and they're mingling the seed, and they're just becoming like all these other New Age religions of the world, and they're not following the guidelines and instructions of our Creator. And somebody very upsetly got up and said, don't tell me that. My church, we follow the guidelines and instructions of our Creator. We follow His commandments. I said, oh yeah? How's that fourth one working out for you? And he just didn't even know what the fourth one was, but that is to keep the Sabbath and keep the day holy, just like we see the beginning here, that is a special day of rest, and not to do the normal day's work. Even the Christians that believe that it's Sunday, they're still not keeping that day, because what do they do after church? They go out and do business. And, it's just The mingling of the seed has confused the people, and that is the trick of the enemy to confuse the people. We have to rise higher, and we want to go to that promised land that is waiting for us. And the way we do that is understand that not only did Moses assemble a whole community, but Messiah assembled a whole community. When? When we accepted him. When we accepted him as Messiah, we said we're going to keep his guidelines and instructions throughout all our generations, and we're going to follow his word today and always. And he pointed us to the Torah, the guidelines and instructions to keep the words of our Creator, and no one is excused from those words. And we go on to look at the amazing things that the scriptures have in store for us, and all throughout the Torah it tells us exactly what he wanted us to do, how he wanted to do it, and when he wanted to do it. Look, folks, I believe that you have the Torah, the Gospels, and Revelations, and everything you need to know about Scripture, past, present, and future, is found within those books. But all the other books of Scripture, including those books, are examples of how we are to live our lives and the consequence that's going to happen to us based on our actions. Our actions will reveal our heart, and it clearly shows in Scripture. And if you don't believe me, you can look at many of the scriptures out there that I often quote in my lectures. It clearly shows that our quantity and quality of our life is determined by our blessings, and our blessings is determined by our actions. And the consequences we suffer, whether good or bad, are determined by the decisions we make. And all the books of Scripture give us the idea or the right decision to make in every single situation. There's not no situation in Scripture that some of us have not suffered from or experienced yet. So what we need to do is look at the Scripture and take that as an example of how we're supposed to act or what we're supposed to do in every single situation, and we will be blessed. Now, from a health standpoint, disease is a curse and health is a blessing. Do you want to be blessed? So many people today are suffering from disease, yes, even believers, because they're not following the guidelines and instructions of our Creator. In Exodus 15:26, in the scripture it says, "If you diligently keep my commands and diligently keep all my statutes, I shall not put the same disease upon you that I put upon the Egyptians." This has nothing to do with Egyptians, folks. This is the obedient versus disobedient. If you keep my commands and guidelines and statutes, I will not put the same disease upon you that I put upon the disobedient. We are not supposed to suffer the way the disobedient suffered today, but we are, because we are just as disobedient. What's worse is we accept Yeshua as our Messiah, but we keep being disobedient, and this has created a tremendous problem today. Not only does it say, "I will not put the same disease upon you that I put upon the Egyptians," but it goes on to even say, if you go over the promised land, when you go there, you are to separate, divide, and destroy every unclean thing. Do not make a covenant with them. And if you follow my guidelines in this area, I will bless you abundantly. But if you disobey and disagree, and you do make a covenant with them, not only will I put the same disease upon you that I put upon the Egyptians, but I will give you new diseases that you never even heard of yet. We live in a time today where we have more money, science, knowledge, and study of the topic of disease than ever before. But the medical community today, every single day, is naming a new disease. What does that tell us? That tells us we've mingled the seed so much that we can't even tell the difference of what is righteous and what isn't righteous anymore. And you have all these oxymorons in the church today, like Christian yoga and Chrislam and all these other New Age things coming out today that are so far against the message of Messiah, and we continue to suffer for this disobedience. As I travel around the world and meet so many people, I love to hear the stories about people that are blessed for keeping his word and having faith in him, which is more important than anything, because to have faith in him and know that circumstances might seem dim and it might seem that things aren't going our way, but we have faith that he has a plan for us. And as it says in the scriptures, he offers us a future and a hope. And that's what he offers all of us. And there's a future and hope for all of us. But we have to follow his word, his guidelines and instructions. Read the guidelines and instructions, the founder of the scripture, the Torah, on a regular basis. I was in a church a couple of months ago and I said, "How many of you are believers?" And they all raised their hand. I said, "You believe in Messiah?" They said, "Yes." I said, "And why don't you read your word?" And I said, "We read the word. We love to read the word." I said, "How many of you read the Torah?" They go, "Well, we don't read the Torah. We're not Jewish." The Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible. It has nothing to do with being Jewish or not Jewish. Then I ask people, who here is a Gentile? And everyone raised their hand. You're not a Gentile if you've accepted Yeshua as Messiah, because a Gentile means a non-believer. It means heathen. It means pagan. When you accept Yeshua as your Messiah, it means you are no longer a heathen or a pagan or a Gentile. It means you are now Israel, and you are now a believer of Messiah, and you are accepted and part of the tribe of Israel. So that's what I want to let everyone know this week's Shabbat reading. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. If you have any comments or questions, post them below the video. We will be back next week in the United States. We are enjoying South Africa. Absolutely beautiful here. Wonderful people. And until then, everybody, have a great Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. And we'll see you again soon. on Torah Life Ministries.
Torah Life Ministries.